Hello, welcome to Interviewing Skills and Email Etiquette for Moorpark College's Digital Journalism and Public Relations Department. My name is Professor Kelsey Stewart. So we are going to go through a quick timeline. Here we have reaching out to a source. This is a total time of 2 days. First, we give a phone call. Then we give an email. We follow up with a phone call and follow up with an office visit, ideally. In our initial contact, our phone call, we are going to introduce yourself, and you are going to say who you write for. If you write for a local paper or you're freelance writing for one, then you're going to state that. If you are a staff writer for the Moorpark Reporter, then you will state that. You are going to request a quick interview and state the subject of the interview. You are always going to put a positive, light, and quick feel to the prospect of an interview, whether it or not it is of delicate information. You're also going to make sure that you leave your cell phone or your Google Voice number. If you have a question about that, we can talk about how to set up a Google Voice account, which is free. If you are speaking to an assistant, you need to request source contact information. That means a personal email or cell phone number or an extension of some sort that you can follow up. As soon as you end that phone call with either their assistant or their voicemail, you're going to follow up with an email immediately, restating numbers 1 through 5. When you email your source, you need to make sure you first proofread it. You need to also state who you are and what you're writing about in the first sentence. Why are you reaching out to them? What is this story about? You need to request a meeting in person or over the phone within your email. You do not want to use your first initial email as a draft of questions. You want to introduce yourself prior to. So after you send that first email, then you're going to send out another one listing out your questions. So you send out the email verifying who you are, what you're going to be writing about, and request a meeting with them. In your follow-up email, this will be within a day. If you have still not heard from them, you're going to repeat what you said in your first email, and then you're going to list out your questions. You are not going to list out more than 3 to 5 questions, and you're going to make sure that these questions that you're listing out are not questions that you could have answered by doing research on your own. If you're sending out an email to a city council member and you're asking them questions that they know you could have found online, then they are not going to find you a very credentialed member of the media. Okay? So after you list out your 3 to 5 questions, then you're going to follow with your name and your signature. We will go over that as we get further in the course. But your name and your signature and your contact information. After you send out that first email of the intro, which is covered, numbers 1 through 4, you're going to also follow up with an email or a phone call in 24 hours. The idea here is to be unforgettable, to be professional, and to be aggressive in a very polite way. So your follow-up phone call. This is again after you've sent that email. You've already had a phone call. You've already sent an email. Quite possibly you've sent another email in regards with your questions. You're going to leave a message with the assistant or their voicemail again. This time you're going to also request another meeting or a first initial meeting with them over the phone. You're going to provide 2 to 3 time slots that week that you are free. You're going to leave again your cell or your Google Voice number. Then you're going to also follow that entire sequence with state that you will drop by at a certain time that day to check in. So if they are local, this is obviously something you will be able to do. If it's not a local source, then it's going to be hard, obviously, to drop by. But you want to state that you will drop by at a certain time that day to check in. And this is just making them aware that, hey, you are serious about this, you are informed, you are professional, and you have been following up over the last 24 to 48 hours. When you secure that interview, whether it is over the phone, whether it is through in person, you are going to make sure that you are an expert on your subject and on your source. You have done all that you can to research their name and research what they are about and what your piece is about. You make sure that you have researched other news stories on your subject, other publications that have been that have released on this topic, you're going to make sure that you've read all of them. You know every angle that has been covered. If you're sending out multiple emails for one story, so say you are interviewing multiple board members or multiple city council members, you're going to send out different questions. This is huge. It will enhance your story, but it will also enhance your commitment to your story and to your interviewers. If they collaborate and they talk and they say, "Did you get this email? What are your questions?" You're going to look more professional and more locked into the story if you send out different questions. You want to also, again, make sure that you put a light and positive spin on the topic of your questions, especially if we're in regard to delicate issues. If City Council, as most of them are right now, voting on some delicate issues, you want to make sure that you don't come across bias in any way. You want to make sure that you are covering that, you are covering your questions with an overall understanding of the history and the context that's been going on in their city, as well as at the higher levels of government. And you want to make sure that the questions allow your source to respond fully. Do not give them yes or no questions. You always want to seek out an in-person interview. Those are the top responses you will get, especially for a main subject or authority source. If you have to go over the phone, then make sure that you have your phone on speaker and recording and you're able to type when you're doing a phone interview. If you are, the last case scenario is an email interview, and if that's what you have to get, then that's your last case scenario, and that is okay. But make sure that you take some time to draft out those questions so they are thought provoking. Again, this entire 48 hours of suggested source contact, this helps you to create a source within your network. Ideally, this type of contact is set for your beat coverage, what you are going to become an expert in, or what you are seeking to become an expert in. Do an in-person interview, you are on time, you're 30 minutes early. You are set with an extra pen and notepad. You are set with your computer and your phone for a voice recording app is downloaded. You are just incredibly prepared. You do not want to show up late. You do not want to show up unorganized. You want to be prepared for everything. Have follow-up questions rather than having just 5 set questions. Have 10 just in case they answer them quickly or if it somehow doesn't apply to them. Just be over-prepared. That's a tip with all of this, and be very professional. Always err on the side of being overdressed and being earlier than expected and being incredibly professional, because they won't expect that with members of the media nor student journalists. Okay, good luck.